morning. Oh, I'm so glad you're with me today and with us because we've got a great show for you lined up for today. And then tomorrow is going to be just even better. Well, it'll be just as good. But we've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm really excited to have you on today. Now, remember that we all have blindness in our lives, and it's not bad that we have blindness. Sometimes we just need to understand the value that we're bringing. So understanding that blindness and embracing that blindness will help us to go so much further and be more successful and be more happy. And that's what we want to be, right? Be happy. So if you would, please share this video out with as many other people as you can think of as you're going about your day, and just make sure that you just share these videos. I'll leave it at that. Also, if you would, please put in your timeline, put in a hashtag Brian with one eye and a hashtag of winking with Wagner, and in that also put in your picture of you winking with me, because understanding your wink, understanding what makes you unique, is the biggest thing that you can do. So if you would do that for me, I would appreciate it. But without any further ado, I'm going to get right to the show and our friend, Mr. Dave Caperton. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm going to give you the singular, what your vision alignment wink here.
Very nice. Very nice. Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to just bring you on, Dave, and kind of tee you up. I mean, I know that we wanted to talk a little bit about, the holidays, right? So
yeah, that's the one thing that's we're all in the middle of the thick of it now. So
right. And the holidays are, and we got some friends on here already. Good morning, Ted. Oh, he's had as well. So Ted Legal, very cool. Anybody else that's joining us, please put in where you're calling in from and calling in. I sound so old. Dial in from.
Dial in. Keep
I don't know what I'm saying.
Letters coming in.
I just talk. My brothers used to say that I used to talk just to hear myself talk. But
my problem is I talk, but I don't listen. People tell me that. It's like, did I say that? Wow, that's
no, that's all. Anyway, I'm going to get off here for a little bit, and there are some other people joining us. So, Eric Bam.
It's Eric. Eric Bam.
Wow. It's Eric with one eye. So tell us a little bit about your holidays and how they're going and all that while I hop off the line here.
Oh, okay. Well, the holidays are wonderful. I'm my wife and son and I are we're all pandemic, socially distanced, isolated, doing most of our shopping online, and that's just the world we live in now. I mean, one thing we have learned is you've got to be flexible these days. We've got to pivot, and the world's different. We don't shop the way we used to shop. We don't visit the way we used to visit. And so, that's tough. That's very stressful. The holidays are stressful anyway. For one reason, just because the pressure of finding the right gift, that's never easy. And I'm not a great gift giver. I'd be, just full disclosure here. I'm not a great gift giver. My wife is. She's terrific at it. She always has a very thoughtful gift for me every year. And it usually has a backstory to it too. I remember one year I opened up a big box she gave to me Christmas morning, and in it was a saxophone. And I said, a saxophone, wow. And then she hands me an envelope, and in that is a certificate for some beginners lessons on how to learn how to play the saxophone. I said, wow, what is this about? And she said, well, do you remember we were in the car and we had that jazz station on, and they had that little retrospective Charlie Parker. And she said, I just remember the look on your face, and you were saying, man, if I could make music like that, that would just be a really wonderful thing. Because I would love to see that look on your face again. She says, I got you the saxophone, and I got you lessons to learn how to. And I was so moved. I mean, I got tearful. And I thought, wow, that's beautiful. Kind of hate to hand you the Snuggie and the Fry Daddy now.
Whoops.
Yeah. Like, what's the backstory there, Dave? And like, well, I know how sometimes you get chilly, and what's more cozy than a blanket you can wear like a robe and some fried food, The real backstory is I watch a lot of late night infomercials. 2:00 in the morning last Saturday. This seemed like a great idea.
Sure.
But, I mean, it's just this time of year, it's got built in. I mean, it's already installed. There's stress that goes with it. And it's also kind of bittersweet because the truth is, look, Brian, the holidays, as we get a little older, you're younger than I am, but as you get older, it has its challenges, right? It's not all just, you're not looking forward to it like a kid. It's like, lights and Santa and now it's tough in the best of times. It's tough. Even walking to the store, because they'll have the Christmas carols, Christmas music, every place that you used to go when you actually went out to shop.
Yeah.
Christmas music all the time. You turn on the radio and it's like, hey, we have all Christmas all the time, the sounds of the season, right? And I was sitting here listening. I listened to Bing Crosby and Karen Carpenter and George Michael singing, Last Christmas and all these different songs. And I thought, oh my gosh, everybody's dead.
Well, I was going to say, you had me there until George Michael, but you're right. You're right. They're all dead.
It's so depressing,
Wow.
All right. Listen, what is it?
Speaking of dead people, who's the autograph baseball pick behind you?
Oh, the autographs? Okay.
Yeah.
Some of my heroes. I've got the Marx brothers up here. There's that one's Chico Marx autograph right there, and that one's Groucho Marx. And what you can't see is I've also got Jimmy Stewart over here. Let me see if I can angle it a little bit. There you go, Jimmy Stewart over there. So, which is good segue because we all look at Jimmy Stewart, and I don't care what age you are, you've probably seen plenty of times on TV this time of year. What's the one movie that's the must-have, right?
Yeah.
It's A Wonderful Life.
Right.
And, I was watching that movie, and there is so much to unpack in that movie. I think there's a lot there. At the time it was kind of a flop at the box office. Didn't do well.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, it was kind of forgotten. That's the reason it went into public domain, and television stations could run it without having to pay any royalties. So
that's why it got popular, because it was free.
It was free, right? And because it was free, all these local stations and even networks would run it every Christmas. Well, that's how it caught on, as far as getting a following.
I had no idea.
It was the first movie Jimmy Stewart was in after he returned from the war. And, he flew many missions in the war on a bomber. And so, he'd seen some things. And when he got back, here he was not getting a lot of phone calls and offers for movies. This was the first one, Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life, with Donald Reed. And, it's one of my favorites. Absolutely one of our.
I guess so. You know a lot about it.
Oh, I do. I'm like TCM, man. You just tune in. I think about what's really the lesson there. And he plays this character named George Bailey. And George Bailey has got big dreams. He's got plans. And from the time he's a kid in this small town of Bedford Falls, he says, I'm getting out of this town. I'm going to set the world on its ear. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to see wonderful things. I'm going to be an architect. And I'm going to build amazing things around the world. You're going to hear from me. But just as he's getting ready to do those things, his dad has a stroke and he runs the little building and loan there in town. So he has to take over that. And his son, his younger brother goes off to do a lot of the things that he didn't get to do. He got to go to college, to see a lot of things. And then he marries and he has a lot of kids, and they go through a depression. The depression hits, and every single time he's just about ready to go out and see some of the world that he's wanted to see and fulfill one of his dreams, even his honeymoon, right? It was right when the crash happens. And they run on the building and loan, and he uses the money we're going to use for his honeymoon to pay people enough to get by so they don't have to close down the building and loan. So he's really frustrated. And he gets to a point where some money goes missing, just an accident, but he realizes it's going to result in prison. They're going to say it's embezzling, and he goes on his hands and knees to this Mr. Potter, who kind of runs everything, runs the bank. And, he turns him away and says, I'm going to swear out a warrant for your arrest. And so he's broken, and he thinks, the only thing I have is my insurance policy. And Mr. Potter has told him, George, you're worth more dead than alive. And that's when his guardian angel shows up and grants him something. It's a wish, because he says, I guess it would have been better if I'd never been born. And he says, let's try that out. And all of a sudden he sees what life would be like for all the people whose lives he touched if he'd never been born. Now, I just rehashed the plot of a movie everybody knows. You're like, yeah, move on.
But I must be the only one, because it's new for me. I know I've watched it before, but to say that I know it as well as you do would be far from it.
Yeah, well,
it's good.
I'm 50 years older than you, so I've seen it that way.
I don't think so. But anyway.
But here's the amazing thing, and I think it's the part that we can easily miss. That after he sees all these things, and he's just desperate, his mother doesn't know him. He sees that the town isn't the same. He sees that how the lives of people, some people whose lives were lost, including his little brothers, who he saved from falling through the ice one day. He visits his grave. You're like, well, you weren't there to save them, And all of a sudden, when he finally gets to come back and people recognize him and he realizes, he's back, he runs down the streets of this little town he's never been able to leave. And he's out of his mind with joy. And he's going, Merry Christmas, everyone. Right? And he runs home to the same old house and the same problems that he has. And in come the officers, and he says, isn't it wonderful? I'm going to jail. Here's the lesson, I think, that's easy to skip. Nothing has changed. His whole life is exactly the same set of problems. It's absolutely the same kind of pressures. He's facing all the same, the same life that he had before. And yet he's totally joyful. And you think, why is that? What was the transformation? Now, at the end, the town does come and they pitch in their money because he's meant so much to them, and it bails him out. But that's a bonus. He was totally joyful and happy and satisfied with things just as they were, even with all of his problems, because only one single perspective changed. He was suddenly grateful for the things he had. And that was his redemption. That was his transformation. I'm just grateful for the things I've already got.
Even the problems he had, right?
Yes. Isn't it wonderful? I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Brian, I've been following your story and, what you've been going through. There's a lot of stuff going on with you. And it would be so tempting and justified for you to go, wow, man, this stuff's happening to me in 2020 when all this other stuff's already going on. And it would be easy and absolutely understandable to say, it ain't fair. And I'm just not, I'm kind of embittered about it. But what I see always from you, my friend, is you keep focused on the things that you have instead of thinking about the things that you've lost. And that's a key. That's the key to finding joy is it really comes down, remember we talked about last time we were together, two things. And I think it is two things. One is just a practiced gratitude.
Stay off the break.
What's that?
Stay off the break.
Did I say what?
The two things we talked about last time were stay off the break and let them in.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right. Hey, good job. You remembered. I didn't. I told you I don't listen to me. Other people don't. I'm always surprised. But the two things in this case are a gratitude for what we have. And the other one is a focus on how we can serve others. So it's just gratitude and then a kind of what can I do attitude toward others. That's really the recipe for joy. I mean, we talk about it. We put on a lot of, things this part of this time of the year. Joyful, joy to the world. That's where it comes from. I mean, you want a recipe for it. It is the gratitude we have for what we already have. Mm-hmm. And ignoring those things that we maybe have lost, but instead it's not about what we've lost. It's about what we have left. What can we do with that for someone else? And those are the two things.
I wish I could say it was easy. It would be a lot easier just to stay in bed. But I know where that is heading. I know where I'm heading. I know where I'm headed anyways. But I know that the longer I can put it off, the better off I'll be. And I feel like this is my job. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be helping other people, and so I can't help many other people when I'm in bed. So get up in the morning, get showered. Obviously I don't talk as well as I used to. I don't feel like I used to. I don't see like I used to. Even when I had blindness, everything changed. But So thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully I'll be good enough to stay doing this. And who knows? Maybe someday I won't be able to talk, and I'll have to have you talk for me.
I'll put you on my lap, and we'll get it on.
Hey, right. So let's get to some of our friends here. What is this that Wes is saying? His buddy
Zuzu. Wow.
Who's Zuzu?
Zuzu. Now she's a story in herself. She was the little girl who was the youngest member of George Bailey's family, right? And when he comes home and he's all just distressed on Christmas Eve before he realizes they've got a shortage at the bank and all, and he finds out that she got a flower at school and she tried to keep it warm so she didn't button up her coat, so she came home with a cold. And he goes up to see her and she says, "Look, Daddy, the petals are falling off my flower." She says, "Put them back." And he shoves them down in the little pocket of his vest, right? And acts like he fixed their flower for her. And so later on, he reaches in. That's how he knows that he exists again, because he reaches into his pocket and he goes, "Look, Zuzu's petals." He's got Zuzu's petals. Now, Zuzu herself, she's a story. The woman who played Zuzu, she's still around. And she had so many setbacks in her life. She's been a cancer survivor. She tragically lost family members very suddenly in her life. She has had financial, difficulties and all. And yet she is just one of the most joyful people and positive personalities you'll ever see. I mean, she's got great faith. She's got great joy. And she really has kind of lived that out in her life. And so, that's pretty neat. I like Wes's, that's a neat thing to have.
That's cool. So I have talked about sharing this video out. I thought I knew how to share it out. So I thought you would just go to, I'm sorry, I really took a tangent. I didn't tell you where I was going. So I've been thinking about these comments that came up here, like this one from Ted. You know, he's talking about how he wants to look. He views these programs and he views them after they're live, and you know he wants and he does share it. He's great about sharing, and I appreciate that. But I went to share it out, and I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. I'm like, how can you not share it? So I went to Facebook and went to share it, and it started up the video of you talking. Do you know how to share these out?
Do I know?
Yeah.
Boy, are you are going to the wrong well here, my friend. You know?
Well, all right. I'll work on that later.
Yeah, an Etch-a-Sketch is the height of technology for me.
Well, we'll get your son in here sometime. He'll help.
That's what I do with my laptop. You know, it's like it's not working. Shake it. You
know. Well, so that's an interesting take on It's a Wonderful Life. Are there other characters that you think of that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, the greatest Christmas stories are really ones of redemption, right? This is really a theme at the holidays. Is we look at those people who have lived a certain life, and then something happens that changes their course, right? Their trajectory. And, you know, there's the stories of redemption. Ebenezer Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. You know, I was an English teacher, listen. And so I'm always looking for ways to relate. There's so many lessons in literature that you find are so instructive in how we live, how we lead, how we relate to other people, how we communicate. They're just wonderful lessons. I think, we need to always go back and read, because the characters that are so rich in classic literature, and Charles Dickens was just absolutely a master of creating strong, relatable, and memorable characters. And Ebenezer Scrooge, we remember him as being this horrible skinflint, misanthrope. But
wow, that's a big word. A what?
I was an English teacher. I just want to say that.
A misanthrope. A misanthrope?
Misanthrope. Somebody who doesn't like people, right?
Wow.
That's your word day break. So, but you know what? Well, listen, like I said, as an English teacher, I don't know how many times I taught high school English and American literature. You know how many times that, I'm grading papers and book reports, and I'm telling, it's like, there is no "the" in Moby Dick. Okay, I'm telling you guys, stop. The title is just Moby Dick.
So that's funny, because I've got an English teacher upstairs.
Yeah.
She just finished her graduate school, and she's going to go out and teach next year. So funny. Funny you mentioned that. Anyway, sorry. Go on. You're
Ebenezer Scrooge, all right?
Yeah, a misanthrope.
Right, a misanthrope. But he's somebody who he warns all of humanity away. And very much like George Bailey, he has a guide, a spirit guide, not Clarence this time. It's these ghosts. Jacob Marley, his old partner, is able to arrange for 3 spirits to visit him, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. And he sees his own life. And, one of the programs, in fact, that I created for leadership teams, it comes from that. Comes from A Christmas Carol, but not from Ebenezer Scrooge. It comes from a character that only appears for 3 pages. And if you've watched movies versions, all the movie and television versions of A Christmas Carol, there have been dozens and dozens of them. They usually they skip over this character or use him as just a way to bring in the character of Belle, who is the love interest of Scrooge, who as he becomes a greedier, misanthropic.
Man, out of word today.
Oh, baby.
I know what that means.
Character. He loses her to his pursuit of wealth, right? And so usually they use this character's party, but the character's name, great name. Dickens was great at coming up with wild names. The Pickwick Papers. His name was Mr. Fezzywig. Do you remember him?
No.
You don't remember Mr. Fezzywig?
No.
Mr. Fezzywig was Ebenezer Scrooge's first boss, right? He was apprenticed in his business.
Okay.
But he is the absolute polar opposite of Ebenezer Scrooge and what he becomes. Where Scrooge is nasty, he's jolly. Where he's stingy, Fezzywig is generous. And several years ago, when I was reading the story, we read it every Christmas. And I do all the voices and everything.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so I'm reading that, and it just kind of occurred to me, Fezzywig is the reason why Ebenezer Scrooge knows what to do when his heart changes. Otherwise, he would have had no guide. Fezzywig absolutely showed him what kind of person to be. That was his greatest, as a boss, as a person of business. Because in it, you got to remember, old Scrooge, what he's done to the whole thing is he's made everything a transaction, right? In the beginning, he says, when Bob Cratchit wishes his nephew Fred a Merry Christmas, he says, there's another one with a family to support and 15 shillings a week, and wishing him a Merry Christmas. He's only thinking in terms of what he's got and what he's got. When Fred tells him Merry Christmas, his nephew, he says, what reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough. He goes, well, what reason have you to be miserable? You're rich enough, right? So everything's a transaction. It's all about how much money do I have and why. That's what happiness is. But at the end of his little visit by the Ghost of Christmas Past to see old Fezzywig, Scrooge has kind of forgotten all that, and he's praising Fezzywig. What a wonderful man he was, and oh, God bless him, dear Fezzywig, and he was just the most wonderful. And the Ghost of Christmas Past says, why all this praise? I mean, has he really done so much? He's only spent a few pounds of your mortal money, for this little celebration he put on. And Scrooge says this. He says, it isn't that, Spirit. It isn't that. He said, he has the power to make our work a pleasure or a toil. His power lies in words and looks and things so slight and insignificant that you can't even count and add them up. He says, what then? The happiness he gives is worth as much as if it had cost a fortune. This is Scrooge before he's changed. And he said, this is what matters. This is what value is. This was the value of this old boss of mine. What a great lesson. And I'm thinking, so let's look at those 3 pages of what Fezzywig did. He invited everyone. He was an inspiration and a role model for joy, for celebration, right? He was when they invited all the guests in, it wasn't just his business partners or the people he could impress. It was his family and the families of his apprentices and the baker and their families, and people came from everywhere. And even mentioned people who had been abused. The girl next door who was said to have been abused by who had her ears pulled by her mistress, and the boy who worked in another business who they thought probably didn't have enough board or food to eat. So he invited the people who were not impressive people that he just kind of, I'll bring these people into my celebration and impress them and entertain and wine and dine them. And then, that'll result in a transaction of business later, right? No, he brought in the humble folks. And so that was the instruction that old Scrooge, once he had his change of heart, he knew exactly what to do. He knew what he had to do for Bob Cratchit and his family, you know. So these old Christmas classics, you know, from
That's deep, man.
to Scrooge to heck, you know, the Grinch, right?
Wow.
They're all the same, right?
That's deep, though. That's deep. You went deep on a 3-page character.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I love English majors.
Oh, we're deep. We're deep.
Hey, what about Weston? His comment here about Mary.
Yes, that's right. He says, throw a rock through the window and make a wish. That's what they do. That old house, old decrepit house. And she said, no, don't. I love that old house. Yeah. And she goes and she buys it. You talk about, you know, 1946. That was some pretty advanced feminism, right? She went and bought the house and then surprised George.
Oh, wow. I need to learn a lot. I need to watch these movies, I guess.
Oh, I tell you what, there's much to be. People think I'm wasting my time when I'm going through Netflix. No.
Oh,
Class.
you are good. You are good. Well, Dave, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on. I mean, it's been phenomenal. Just I love it to have a conversation with you and to talk and find out more about, you know, what all you have going on. Oh, and then here's somebody else says something. I love the show that reminds us all of business creates a mess in our life. We need to be able to prioritize. Sometimes there are more important things than business.
No, we use Jacob Marley's response to that. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. He said that the dealings of our little counting house, money-changing hold, he called it, were but a drop in the comprehensive ocean of what is our business. So that is our business. Mankind is our business. Humankind is our business. And this is just a good time of year to remind us what we need to be thinking and where our heads need to be the other 364 days. So
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, Dave. Hope to have you back here in another. I think it's your Wednesday, right?
Yeah, back.
So, all right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you again on Wednesday. Thanks.
All right, Ryan.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Woo! What a show! Man, alive. Dave Caperton, he is phenomenal. I had no idea he knew so much about these movies and how impactful those movies have been. I'm impressed. Without doubt, I am impressed. And hopefully you are too. Hopefully, you know, these videos are making some impact in your life, because that's really the intent of all this. So be able to understand that you all have blindness. We all have blindness in our lives. And if we can understand that blindness and we can do something with it, that's what we're all about. So thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you all. Thank you. And I'll talk to you soon. But remember, as always, keep one eye on the road.